Mm. Okay, so Geshe will begin today by giving a quotation from Abhidharma by Master Vasubandhu, where it says the various worldly beings and environments, they all come from karma, and this is of two types, the physical, verbal, and the mental karma. Okay, so first of all, it talks about the various worldly beings and environment, or the various worlds, you could say, the various world systems. So in terms of a world system, we want to look at the various external environments that are inanimate, such as the rivers and the mountains and the lands and so forth. And of course, we want to look at the different living beings who inhabit these environments. So you have the societies of humans, you have the groups of animals, and of course, we have other types of living beings who are neither humans nor animals, and so forth. So it says that all of those things, the whole world or the different world systems have arisen from karma. However, they have not arisen from one single type of karma. They have arisen from various types of karma. So here he makes in Abhidharma, there is a statement that we have two types of karma. In the first category, Master Vasubandhu mentions physical and verbal karma. And then in the second category, he mentions mental karma. So it's important to look at the various activities that we engage. In terms of non-virtue, we engage the 10 non-virtuous actions. And it seems that we engage those almost effortlessly, continuously in the course of 24 hours every day. In terms of virtue, of course, we have the virtue of abandoning those 10 non-virtuous actions. But since we have been engaging non-virtuous actions since beginningless time, and we have accumulated so much of non-virtue, we continue to cycle within samsara. So from beginningless time until now, we keep going around through samsara. It's important to understand that this is not because someone has forced us to be in a particular time or a particular place. Like, there is no king or ruler, or there is no law that made us be in the country that we are right now, or under the conditions that we are under now. This is our own doing, right? So due to actions we have created in the past, we end up now in that environment, in that situation. And still, we keep going around. Once we keep going around, we have very strong grasping at ourselves as being permanent. Although we deteriorate momentarily and everything about us changes momentarily, still we think, I will not die, I'm here, I'm not changing. So very strong grasping at this. However, we need to look at the presentation of the 12 links that actually explain how there is conception, and then how do we go from one rebirth to the next through that power of karma. So Buddhas and Bodhisattvas constantly advise us to abandon the 10 non-virtuous actions, to make the effort to establish virtue, such as practice generosity and the other types of perfections. They constantly tell us that if we do not wish to have the experience of suffering, we should abandon the causes of suffering. However, from our own side, we do not pay sufficient attention to this, and we don't act accordingly. Therefore, we constantly engage those 10 non-virtuous actions. As we say, there are 3 related to physical activities, such as killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. We have 4 related to our verbal activities that have to do with lying, divisive speech, harsh words, and idle gossip. And we have another 3 related to our mental activities as well. So the important thing here is to recognize, first of all, that these activities are negative, and then make the effort to apply appropriate antidotes to overcome or to stop these activities. And then instead of engaging these things, engage virtue. So in the presentation of the Lam Rim that we have, all this is presented with the ultimate goal of reaching the state of omniscience. So in the Lam Rim, although this is the final goal, we see that we have, for example, here, the practices that are shared with the individual of the small scope. And those practices are very important because these are the practices, or the presentation and the practices that makes us seek for a higher rebirth as a god or a human. And in particular, we need to appreciate that from these two types of rebirth, it is human rebirth that we are seeking. However, it's not just an average human rebirth. There are many humans in the world, right? Here, in particular, we're looking for the precious human rebirth that is characterized with the 8 freedoms and the 10 endowments, because this gives us the best opportunity to practice Dharma. Otherwise, as we say, there are millions and billions of humans in the planet, but most of them do not have the opportunity to practice. So I think that you're very fortunate to have the opportunity to come here, to listen, to reflect, to meditate on these teachings of the Lam Rim. So we talked about the 10 non-virtuous actions. However, we see that in terms of the society of everyday activities, the ones that are most obvious and predominant are the 3 related to the body and the 4 related to our speech. So we have to make an effort to restrict those things. Now, if we look at the way that the Buddha taught, the Buddha, first of all, when he talked about the 3 higher trainings, first of all, he talked about training in ethics, then training in concentration, and then training in wisdom. So training in ethics actually becomes a foundation for the other 2 types of training. However, in order to have training in ethics, in order to have that foundation, first of all, we must restrict negative activity of the body and the speech. So this means we must restrict any of the killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and any of the 4 of the speech, such as lying and so forth. So, you know, there is the expression that says guarding one's ethics. So discipline refers to guarding one's ethics. Guarding here means guarding against those 3 non-virtuous actions of the body and the 4 non-virtuous actions of the speech. Just as in the land, you might have a law and that prohibits certain things, you maintain or you uphold the law if you guard against whatever action is prohibited, right? So here, ethics or morality means we are guarding against those non-virtuous actions. Once we have the foundation of the ethics, then we can begin training in concentration. When we train in concentration, what we try to do is to stop the mind from being distracted to this and that object. So, for example, we know if you try to develop calm abiding, you really must have this type of control over your mind. You must stop the mind from wandering. And if we have subdued or restricted negative behavior of the body and the speech, we have already eliminated a lot of distraction. There's a lot of places the mind will not go. So you can see how ethics acts to support concentration. And once concentration is developed, then, of course, we can engage in analytical meditation, in placement meditation, and we can develop our wisdom, so which is the 3rd training. So we can have wisdom realizing emptiness, wisdom realizing core selflessness, wisdom realizing the 16 aspects of impermanence, and so forth. And obviously, we need to place quite a lot of imprints in our mind to develop these types of wisdom. However, as we say, in society, the most prominent things is our physical and our verbal behavior. And therefore, because we constantly engage in these activities, we must make the effort to modify this. And you will see that this type of behavior is considered to be negative behavior irrespective of whatever religious belief you might have. Like everybody considers lying or deception and so forth to be a bad thing, isn't it? So we have to be very careful to be aware how much of this is happening. There is lying, there is deception in the sense that you say things that are untrue. The other person hears those words and then they form an opinion according to what you have said, right? But here you are fooling the person because you're not talking truth. Then we have harsh words. So motivated with a harmful intention, the intention to really harm the other person, you speak with harsh words. And when the other person hears this, of course, they are hurt. And when they're hurt, they also respond to you in a similar manner. So you have upset their mind, then they speak in a similar way to you, then your mind now becomes upset and so forth. So you can, this is something that is ongoing on an everyday basis in society. Okay, so the presentation of the karmic law of cause and effect is very vast and profound. We've said that depending on the severity of negativity that we create, we might end up with a birth as a hell being, as a hungry ghost, or as an animal. On the other hand, depending on the, let's say, importance of virtue that we create, we can be reborn as someone in the higher realms, or someone as a god in the desire realm, or as a human. So if we look at the presentation of the 12 links, there karma is presented to be of three types. The first one is meritorious karma, the second one non-meritorious, and the third one is called immovable karma. So first of all, let's look at the meritorious karma. Meritorious karma comes from establishing virtue. And basically, this is karma that has the power to project you into a life as a human. So we need meritorious karma to be born as humans. Okay. Let's skip the second category, the non-meritorious karma, and let's go to the last one, which is immovable karma. Immovable karma is the one that actually establishes rebirth in the higher realms. The higher realms are 17 different types of abode in the form realms and 4 types of abodes in the formless realm. This is called immovable karma because it indicates it's very stable. And it is very stable because it comes through developing familiarity. And familiarity here comes from concentration. So basically, the causes for establishing rebirth in the higher realm is not, as it is in our case of rebirth, abandoning the 3 non-virtuous actions of the body, abandoning the 4 non-virtuous actions of the speech. This is not the cause that gives you rebirth in the higher realms. What gives you rebirth up there is developing what is called the access and the actual states of concentration. So, although you have a body of a person in the desire realm, which could be a god or could be a human, right? We are in the desire realm. So you have this type of a body and you begin meditating to develop concentration. Before you obtain the actual state of concentration, you obtain what is called the access state, right? So it's a preliminary state. So developing the access and the actual state of concentration become the cause for us to obtain a rebirth in the form or in the formless realm. So there are many permutations, whether you do this meditation on the basis of a human body, which is still within the desire realm, or on the basis of a god body, which is within the desire realm. It is a complicated issue because there are different permutations there. However, the important thing is that as you develop this type of access and actual concentrations, you suppress and eventually you abandon gross states of afflictions. As we say, it is called immovable. It is meaning it is very stable, and basically you have to obtain calm abiding in order to create the causes to be reborn there. Calm abiding and progressing on your way to special insight. Okay, then the second category that we skipped, the non-meritorious karma. as it is presented in the 12 links, is like through ignorance, in terms of the law of cause and effect. Motivated by this ignorance, we engage in the 10 non-virtuous actions, and this results in rebirth in the hell realm or the hungry ghost existence, or as an animal existence. So this is what we have presented already. Okay, so also in the 12 links, we have another presentation of karma, which is karma that it is obvious in this life. Second one is karma that will become manifest in the next life. And the third one is karma that will become manifest in many lifetimes later on. So the first one, the karma that becomes obvious or manifest in this life, it is karma that we can see playing out, if you want, within this lifetime. So usually we see at the behavior of an individual, let's say earlier on in their life, and then we see how they end up later on in this life. So imagine that you have someone who is motivated through very strong self-cherishing. They just want to benefit themselves by whatever means possible. So they say a lot of lies to others, they deceive others, they snatch the wealth, or they take by improper means the wealth of others, and so forth. We might see this type of people prosper for a number of years, but later on we see them impoverished, and we see all of this wealth declining, and we see that already they start suffering. So this is karma that is obvious, it's manifest, you can see the results within the bounds of this one lifetime. Okay, so we have talked about the first type of karma that is manifesting in this life. The next one is karma that is manifesting in the next life. So we say that motivated here by ignorance, you engage in the creation of karma, you place imprints in your mind, and so forth. We're not going to go through all the presentation of the 12 links. Anyway, there is this process that you create karma, you place imprints in your mind, and then important thing is you come to the time of death. Then at the time of death, you have engaged in virtue in this life. You have created the karma to be reborn as a human, but you need to activate these type of imprints for the human rebirth. So at the time of death, let's say through craving and grasping, you activate just these imprints for a human rebirth, and then that leads you to a human rebirth. So you see, you created the karma in this life, and immediately in the next life, you can see that karma actualizing as a human rebirth. Then we have the third type of karma, which will be experienced after a number of rebirths. Okay, so not immediately in the life immediate after this. So as we say here, we have accumulated different types of karma. In this life, we have accumulated the karma to be reborn as a human. But when we come at the time of death, at that crucial time, we might fail to activate the imprints of that karma, of that rebirth. So if we fail to activate the imprints or the karma for a human rebirth, it means some other karma, because we have many imprints, will be activated. So let's say we activate the karma to be reborn as a god. So we end up as a god in our next life, but we still carry those imprints for a human rebirth. At some point, these imprints will be activated. So sometime in some future rebirth, we will see that karma. So as you can see here, this indicates that the time of death and the type of mind that is manifest at the time of death is very crucial. And this is why all the great lamas really emphasize this point. It is that the state of your mind at the time of death is very important. And often we see cases, and often the lamas stress this, that even if in this life you have done some negativity, if at the time of death you can manifest a virtuous mind, then you will be reborn as a human, right? So this is very important. But how can you make sure that you manifest a virtuous mind at the time of death? Because that actually depends on familiarity. So you must have practiced Dharma in your life. And if you haven't practiced Dharma, or if you haven't practiced virtue in your life, you will not be having virtuous thoughts at the time of death. Now, that is a very interesting point, because you see, there are many humans around, and not all of them are Buddhists. It means not everybody has this idea of what is virtue, what is non-virtue. Not everyone is going for refuge to the three objects and so forth. However, they are human, right? How did they obtain this human rebirth? They obtained this human rebirth because at the time of their death in the previous life, they had a virtuous thought. Whether they think that, oh, according to Buddhism, this is virtue, or I consider this virtue, that is irrelevant. They had a virtuous thought, they had a good thought, and that virtuous thought projected or activated the imprints for a human rebirth. So they came around as humans. So, as I say, we have millions of humans in this planet. Very few are Buddhists. There are a lot of people who follow other religious traditions, and there's a great number of people who are not religious at all. However, even within those who are not religious, there are a lot of them that have social engagement, meaning they support schools, they support hospitals, they work for the well-being of other people in the society, right? So this is virtue. These activities are virtuous activities, even though the individual is not religious. So earlier on in Dharamsala, there was this Westerner that came, and he went to see Lama, and he said, I'm not Buddhist, I'm not religious, I don't want to follow this, because I find that with religion come many restrictive rules. They restrict your activities, physical activities. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't say this. But the person said, I really like dogs. I have affection for the dogs. So although this person very clearly said, I'm not going to follow any religious rules here, the person's affection and love for the animals, and he took care for the welfare of the animals there, that was virtue. So as we mentioned yesterday, they are, by engaging in karma, creating karma, there will be three types of results. One is the maturational result. The second one is result that is similar or concordant with the cause. And the third one is environmental result. So if we go now to where we left off, we go on page 16 at the bottom, after Je Rinpoche's quotation. It says, by guarding the ethical conduct of avoiding the 10 non-virtues, you will have a good rebirth. So it's talking about the maturational result. But if you wish to go beyond and gain the 8 qualities conducive to continuing along the supreme path of omniscience, qualities such as good rebirth, a good family, a strong mind, and a harmonious body, then also create their causes. Okay, so it's, as it says here, we're not just looking in general for a good result, a good maturational result. We are very particular. We're looking for a good maturational result that has 8 qualities that are very conducive to practicing Dharma. So in order to do this, in order to obtain those 8 qualities, we must abandon those negative types of activity. And in order to abandon these activities, first of all, we must see them as faults. We must recognize their shortcomings. So let's look, first of all, at killing. If you want to totally abandon killing, so as a human, to say, I will abandon killing, it means that you have to look at your motivation and completely eradicate that motivation that brings about killing. In a sense, it's quite different with animals, like the animals that live in the forest and so forth. They can kill other animals, they can kill humans and so forth. However, they cannot be aware, let's say, 100% of the motivation or control the motivation. So our situation is different. Okay, so let's see what type of motivation brings about killing. Definitely the 3 poisons: attachment, hatred, ignorance, and so forth. So it is attachment that makes us kill. So, for example, when you have attachment to the taste of meat, you can kill animals. You will kill animals. When you have attachment for the fur and the skin of the animals, because you think they will fetch a good price in the market, you will kill and skin those animals. If you have ignorance. Or, for example, attachment. We're still talking about attachment, sorry. For example, you might have attachment for different body parts of the animal, such as the tusks of the elephants. So many elephants have been killed in India and Africa and so forth, just for the sake of removing the tusks. Also, some people, okay, so all this was in relation to animals. Also, people, when it comes to attachment for profit, selling body parts, this is not restricted to animals, because we know there is a trade of human trafficking of human parts, isn't it? So all of this comes under the category of being motivated by attachment. Second, motivated by hatred. You kill others due to hatred. So you decide that this type of people, this group of people are my enemies, and therefore I will kill them. This is how war begins, and this is how people kill each other in a war situation. We also have killing due to ignorance. So you see in some cases, some countries, there is this custom of doing bloody sacrifices. So they think out of ignorance that their gods will be pleased if you sacrifice an animal and offer the blood to them. So out of ignorance, people will kill animals and so forth. So we mentioned about killing due to hatred, and we have to be very aware here of how much division there is in society. There is division among class, like we are upper class, they are lower class. There is division in terms of skin. We are black and they are white. There is division in terms of the level of training or education. We are educated, they are uneducated. And these divisions actually bring about hatred. And this hatred can lead to killing and so forth. Instead, if we could recognize that all the humans are equal in the sense that everybody wishes to have happiness and nobody wishes to have suffering. So if you start with that recognition of equality, it will be much easier for your mind to become Dharma and for Dharma to become practice that develops well. So it says here, that by abandoning the 10 non-virtuous actions, you will have a good rebirth. So then that good rebirth becomes a basis, a foundation. And then it says, but if you wish to go beyond that and gain the 8 qualities conducive to continuing along the supreme path to omniscience, all right, so if you want to continue progressing along the path to omniscience, which is an excellent path, then it will be very useful if you also obtain 8 qualities. So these 8 qualities are actually very important. Because the 8 qualities is very important, it is important also to understand the causes that bring about those 8 qualities. Of course, it all comes under the presentation of abandoning the 10 non-virtuous actions and establishing the 10 virtuous actions. Okay, so when we talk about those 8 qualities, the 8 qualities refer to having excellent life, which refers to having a long life, okay? Having excellent appearance, physical appearance, like the color of your skin and so forth. Having excellent lineage, meaning being born in an upper caste or a predominant caste, not a low one. Having excellent powers, having excellent intelligence, having excellent strength, having excellent type of rebirth in terms of male and female, and having strength, excellent strength. Mm-hmm. Okay, so all of these are actually relevant to humans, to a human rebirth. They're not relevant to inanimate objects, because obviously in terms of inanimate objects, you cannot talk about being reborn, being reborn with a sentient with the mind being a sentient being and having these qualities. Okay. So the first one, as we say, is to have excellent life. This refers to having lifespan, having a long life. And the specific cause that establishes this is abandoning killing. So very important to create the causes for a long life. We see in society some people live up to 100 years or even beyond 100 years old. And there is always a lot of talk of how they have achieved this. And there's always like the secrets of longevity, like having good health, exercising, eating healthy, and so forth. But you have to understand that these are conditions. If you have not established previously the causes for a long life, the conditions alone will not make your life long. So just vitamins and exercise will not make your life longer. Okay, exercise and proper diet and a healthy environment and so forth. All these are conditions that definitely contribute. Okay, for example, without exercise, we know that a lot of illness will develop in the body. And we talked about death and lifespan the other day, and we said that there is that thing as not reaching your natural lifespan, the lifespan that you have achieved, and dying prematurely. So if you do not exercise and allow illness due to bad diet, lack of exercise, and so forth to settle in, you will not enjoy your full length of life. However, as the Lam Rim states very clearly, in the subject of death and impermanence, and death is certain because our lifespan is running to an end, and there is nothing you can do to add to it, right? There is nothing we can add to whatever lifespan we have. Otherwise, what if there was like a miracle whatever miracle cure, you could pay the doctor, you could pay the scientist to come up with some new method of prolonging your life, or take the lifelong initiation, or take to do pujas and so forth. They do not prolong your life, okay? So they do not add to your lifespan. So understand that you need to establish the main cause for a long life, which is abandoning killing. And then this has to, of course, combine with conditions that promote good health and longevity. So definitely, good conditions, exercise, and so forth are very crucial because they do not allow new disease, new illness to settle in the body. But the most important thing is how we exercise our mind. So we want to have a healthy mind in the sense that we have a mind that is loving, welcoming, so that everyone that we meet, everyone that we see, we just delight seeing that person rather than looking at them with suspicious eyes, immediately saying, oh, I don't like this person, and so forth. Okay, so most important thing is mental health and flexibility. In terms of physical health and exercise and flexibility, Geshe was saying, you can look at those people who are in the army. They get so much exercise. They are so fit. You could say 99%. They would score 99% in terms of physical fitness. But none of them is immortal. Okay, so they have not become deathless. They have not the deathless state. Anyway, exercise is very valuable. The most important thing, though, is mental exercise. So, as we say, it's very important here to identify the specific causes that will bring about a long life. This long life is not something that appears randomly without any cause. It is established through specific causes that we must establish in our previous life. The Lam Rim very clearly identifies these causes. So first of all, abandon harming living beings. Secondly, do not kill. Thirdly, practice animal liberation. We often do this. We go and have a mow, and the mow tells us that this is the practice that needs to be done. Next one is practicing generosity. The next one is appreciating any service that is offered to you by others. And finally, offering medicine and, let's say, nurses and favorable conditions for the sick people. So all those things become causes that establish a long life. Okay, the second of those 8 qualities is having excellent body, excellent appearance. So from the shape of your body to the type of complexion you have, eyes, hair, all the details. We know, of course, there is a lot of preoccupation about our looks in society. There's a lot of talk, there's a lot of conversation, and a lot of effort that goes into presenting ourselves in the best way. So these things, good appearance is something that is established through specific causes. It's not just, let's say, the genetics that you get from your parents, but you must have practiced Dharma perfectly in the previous life. The main cause that brings about beauty, physical beauty, is patience. All right. So we mentioned that, especially in terms of negative speech, that there are a lot of people who say negative things about us. And now, some people say them with the intention to harm. Some people just say them without any specific intention. The thing is that whether they have the intention to harm us or not, we should practice patience and not be upset. It doesn't matter if 100 people call you a thief. If you have not stolen anything, that doesn't make you a thief. So there's no reason to be upset with what they say. So maintaining patience, practicing patience when you're challenged is the main cause. In addition to that, is offering lamps or light to representations of the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha. So a lot of people say that those Indian ladies and girls, they have such big eyes because they're always offering the battle lamps, isn't it? Anyways, people just say. All right. Talking about offering battle lamps, the battle lamps are always offered to representations of the body, the Buddha's body, speech, and mind, right? Some people mistake this and they offer battle lamps and candles and so forth to the body of a deceased person. We never make battle lamps offerings to the deceased. We make the battle lamps offerings to, statues or stupas and texts and so forth. Okay, so clarify this. Okay, another reason is to restore any statues, stupas, temples, texts, and so forth that have deteriorated and declined, and build or construct new ones. Also offering robes to statues and so forth. So all of these causes become perfect causes that establish excellent body. The next one is excellent lineage. Okay, so the word lineage, this word here can be interpreted as lineage or caste. So, for example, in some countries, for India, for example, the caste is so important. So you have the Brahmin caste, you have the royal caste, you have the merchant caste, and then you have the low castes. Anyway, whether you are in a country that has caste, we might not call them caste, but they're always kind of like layers and divisions in society in most countries. The most important thing here is to interpret this as lineage, not caste, but lineage. And lineage is in the context of bodhisattvas who have activated their lineage, and therefore they are in situation where they can practice to generate renunciation and bodhicitta and correct view. And having generated those things, they progress along the path. So you want to have excellent lineage, excellent opportunity to develop those things in that sense. Okay, so how do this come about? It comes about through abandoning pride for yourself and always putting yourself in the lowest position. So you will not place yourself in the lowest position unless you abandon your pride. So we often have pride for many things, either because we have education, or because we have some training, or we have some qualities, or we have money, or we have people around us right? So, for example, if you're a king or a minister, you always have an entourage around you, isn't it? So we have pride about all those things. So you need to abandon the pride and put yourself in the lowest position. Never think, I am better than them. I have more than they do. All right. Is there any question, perhaps, up to here?
Yeah. Was there a karmic connection for one who practiced like Dharma in different tradition, like Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana, or somehow like started from Mahayana, then go into Vajrayana? Is there a karmic connection between all this?
Okay, so the Buddha has actually given different teachings according to the predisposition of the various disciples. So definitely we have this presentation of the Hinayana, the Mahayana, and then especially for the sharpest of Mahayana practitioners, we have a presentation of Tantrayana. According to the presentation of those who follow the Theravada, these were not disciples that it was suitable to hear teachings about great compassion and bodhicitta. And therefore, the Buddha did not give these types of teachings to them. He gave a lot of other teachings, such as selflessness, the self-lacking substantial existence, and so on and so forth. So they have a presentation of the 5 paths, but not the 10th grounds. Then if we look at practitioners who were suitable to receive teachings in the Mahayana, they received all the previous teachings, along with teachings on bodhicitta, on how to develop great compassion, and so forth. So they have the presentation of the 5 paths and the 10 grounds. And then, especially we say amongst them, there will be some special type of disciples that can enter the Vajrayana vehicle and progress to the state of Buddha Vajradhara. Okay, so interesting to see here how individuals, in a sense, they make the choices for which vehicle is suitable for them. So there are those, for example, who hear the presentation of the Mahayana and they say, in the Mahayana, we have 5 paths, beginning with the path of accumulation. And in the path of accumulation, you have 3 stages, the small path of accumulation, the middle path of accumulation, and the great path of accumulation. And when you're there, you must practice the 6 perfections, generosity, ethics, and so on and so forth, for many eons, eons upon eons upon eons, in order to amass the necessary accumulation to progress along the 5 paths. Here we just gave the beginning of the 5 paths, to progress along the 5 paths and reach the state of omniscience. So there are individuals who hear this and they think, this is endless training. I cannot do that much. And therefore, they decide that Mahayana is not suitable for them. And instead, they say, let me enter the Hinayana practice and I will reach the state of an arhat. As a Hinayana, I'll become a Hinayana arhat. So even though they spend many eons engaging in the necessary practices, eventually they reach the state of an arhat. And once you become an arhat in the Hinayana, you remain in the state of absorption or concentration for very long, for eons, right, undisturbed. However, at some point, the Buddhas appear to them and they shatter this concentration and they say, by remaining in this concentration, you have not actually fully established your own purpose, your own potential, let alone establishing the potential or the purpose of others. Therefore, you must rise from that concentration and you must enter the Mahayana. And with this instruction, these individuals, like let's say they upgrade or they enter from the Hinayana, they enter into the Mahayana.